Okay, we're going to finish up fallacies of weak induction. You remember on part 1 we started the false cause fallacy, and there are 4, and we covered 1. You remember post hoc, ergo propter hoc, after this, therefore, on account of this. And this was, don't fall into the error in thinking that just because something happened before something else, that what preceded the other thing is the real cause, okay? And I gave you a couple examples, right? The cheerleaders with the blue ribbons, the black cast crossed my path, and later I tripped. Let's go to the second one now. And this one's called non causa pro causa, not the cause for the cause. This variety is committed when what is taken to be the cause of something is not really the cause of something at all, and the mistake is based on something other than temporal succession. And here, so what this is you're attributing a cause to something that's not the cause, but you're definitely not saying it's the cause just because it came before. So you're just saying it's the cause, and it isn't, but your mistake is not anything to do with temporal succession. And when I introduced this, I talked about correlation doesn't mean causation. So here's a way it could not be temporal succession, but it's another reason you're saying it's the cause, but it isn't. You could be correlating, things together, and just because you see two things correlated doesn't mean causally connected, okay? Causally connected, okay? It does not mean. Okay, just because two things are correlated doesn't mean that one is the cause of the other. That would be an example of, here's non causa pro causa. That's not the cause for the cause. Even though I know you're not doing the temporal succession, you can make other mistakes not dealing with time, and one of them is this one here. Correlation does not mean causation, okay? So here's an example, a couple that'll make this clear. Successful business executives are paid salaries in excess of $100,000. Therefore, the best way to ensure that Ferguson will become a successful executive is to raise his salary to at least $100,000. So the point here is, if you're a successful business executive, you didn't get that way because you were not good and someone just gave you more money for your salary and then you instantly became a good executive. You were successful first and the money was your reward. So here they're trying to say, well, he's not doing a good job. Before we decide to fire him, let's just give him a lot more money. He'll become successful. No, that's the money is not the cause of his success. Success, rather, is what is explaining the higher salary. Okay. What about this? There are more laws in the book today than ever before, and more crimes are being committed. Therefore, to reduce crime, we must eliminate the laws. So they're kind of saying is that if you have more laws written down, or you just create more laws, criminals out there see this and they go, oh, more laws, the penal code is thicker, I'm going to go create more crime. No. Isn't it better to say that because you have more laws written down, you're able to categorize and recognize and have the legislation behind you, if you're in law enforcement, to write people up for more things? Okay, so this just means probably the same amount of crime is going on, but there's more opportunities to cite people, arrest people. So you see here, it's not the fact that they're on the books that's causing the increase in crime. It's probably the same crime is going on, but the increase in arrests and citing people is because there's more things written down, giving police officers, attorneys, everybody more opportunity to tell people you're violating laws. More laws in the book, more opportunity to recognize violations. Okay, simple stuff there, but still you got to kind of know this. What I want to make sure that you do is just know the difference between the 4. The first one from the last lecture capture, temporal succession. This one, the cause is wrong, you don't have enough evidence, you're not thinking right about this, but it doesn't have to do with the fact because it came before, it's other reasons, and I gave you an example. Correlation does not mean causation necessarily. Okay, let's go to the next one here. Oversimplified cause occurs when a multitude of causes is responsible for a certain effect, but the arguer selects just one of these causes and represents it as if it were the sole cause. Okay, and I could say this here. This can happen a lot in economics, okay, and sociology, okay. There could be a lot of reasons why inflation's happening, or a lot of reasons why education performance is going down in schools. It's not just the teachers. It could be what's happening at the home. It could be some of the lousy values kids are getting from music and the TV and all that. So it's not just one thing with sociology and with economics. So if you have just one cause and it's oversimplified, you're committing a fallacy there, and it occurs in these areas a lot. And here's some more examples, everybody. The quality of education in our grade schools and high schools has been declining for years. Clearly our teachers are just not getting the job done. Okay, teachers could be a factor, but you could have really good teachers and still students are not performing like they are maybe in other parts of the world. And it could be because of all the other things going out in the world once kids leave the classroom. And they leave and a lot happens in their lives before they get there. Maybe their home life isn't good. Maybe the family is disintegrating. There's values, like I said, coming through the TV and the iPod and all this digital music, whatever. There could be other things going on, so you can't blame it all on the teacher. Okay? Our teachers could be doing as well as they could in the classroom, just as well as teachers all through the decades, but there's other factors contributing to this. So there's a good example of oversimplification. Here's another one. Today, all of us can look forward to a longer lifespan than our parents and grandparents. Obviously, we owe our thanks to the millions of dedicated doctors who expend every effort to ensure our health. Well, might be oversimplified. Certainly it probably is here. Doctors help and we have increase in medicine, but what about all the increase in we have health clubs now? We got 24-hour fitnesses. People are eating better, so we can thank nutritionists. We can thank a lot of other issues. There's more opportunity to exercise. Health club fees have gone down. Lots of other reasons. How about vaccinations, things like that? I mean, so it's not just our dedicated doctors, it's researchers, it's the culture at large is getting more health conscious, where we're getting preservatives out of stuff. Doctors may have had a role in that, but a lot of other people. So you get the point there, okay? Let's go to the last one here. It's called the gambler's fallacy. So this is the fourth one. So what you remember what you want to do. You have 4 different examples of how people can commit a false cause fallacy. Know the difference of each of these 4, meaning how are each distinct, how are each separate. If you're confused and you don't know what the difference is between 2, you need to slow down and do some work there. And I'm not asking any of you to do what I had to do. In the beginning, I was confused. What's the difference between temporal succession and pro causa, non causa? Well, I had to think about that and study a little bit, and so you have to do the same thing. That's what it takes to get something down so you can make really good decisions out in the world. Okay, back to the gambler's fallacy. This is committed whenever the conclusion of the argument depends on the supposition that independent events in a game of chance are causally related. Okay, let's go to the next handout here. And you guys remember, you're getting the same exact handout and the same type of explanation that I do in the face-to-face. So hopefully this saves you a car trip if some of you were thinking you could come and sit in on those classes because I had made that invitation to you. Okay, here's an example of the gambler's fallacy, and maybe we've all been guilty of this sometime. A fair coin was flipped 5 times in a row, and each time it came up heads. Therefore, it is extremely likely that it will come up tails on the next flip. Okay, you know what? It's not extremely likely. If you flip it 5 times in a row and it comes up heads, it's still 50-50. But we all keep saying, well, you know, I'm due for a tails. You probably are because it's 50-50. But you're not due for a tails because the first 5 flips were heads. Okay, so that's what we mean by that. All right. We'll go to the slippery slope. This is kind of a variety of the false cause fallacy, but this is not under false cause, okay? This is a separate one in its own right, but they are assuming some causal network chain going on. It occurs when the conclusion of an argument rests on an alleged cause-effect chain reaction, and there is not sufficient reason to think that the chain reaction will actually take place and cause the conclusion to take place. And it's used often by people who want to trump up support for their position. Okay? So here's an example. I'll give you 2 of them here. Immediate steps should be taken to outlaw pornography once and for all. The continued manufacture and sale of pornographic material will almost certainly lead, here's a cause-effect, if we do that, the effect is going to be an increase in sex-related crimes such as rape and incest. Now it's possible, but you're not sure. This in turn will gradually erode the moral fabric of society and result in an increase in crimes of all sorts. Eventually, a complete disintegration of law and order will occur, leading in the end to the total collapse of civilization. Okay, it's a slippery slope. If you do this, then this is going to happen. If you do this, then this is going to happen. Sometimes some of these can happen, but often this alleged chain reaction leading to the total collapse of civilization, they're relying on a slippery slope and they're trying to create maybe fear. And I don't know if some of you are familiar with the little kids book, If You Give a Moose a Muffin. It kind of really plays on the slippery slope fallacy, but they do it in a humorous way. You know, if you give a moose a muffin, he's going to want to put jam on it. If he wants to put jam on it, you're going to have to climb up to the top shelf, so you're going to have to get on the cabinet. You're going to slip, and you're going to break all of Mom's china. You're going to be so afraid Mom's coming home, you're going to run out into the front yard. You're going to trip over your tricycle, on and on and on. It's all based on slippery slope. So they're cute stories if you're interested. Okay, here's another one of slippery slope. Attempts to outlaw pornography threaten basic civil rights and should be summarily abandoned. If pornography is outlawed, censorship of newspapers and news magazines is only a short step away. After that, there'll be censorship of textbooks, political speeches, and the content of lectures delivered by university professors. Complete mind control by the central government will be the inevitable result. Okay? So if you outlaw that, there's a slippery slope here. You know, it may not happen at all. You could outlaw pornography because people think this is an exceptional case, and still civil liberties could be protected for a lot of other stuff. But a lot of people, they're not sure if that would happen. But still, most likely will this happen? It seems to be relying on a slippery slope that you're not sure is actually going to take place, and there doesn't seem to be any way to really see if it's going to happen. Okay, all right, let's go to the next one, weak analogy, and this is our last one here. This fallacy affects inductive arguments from analogy. It is committed when the analogy is not strong enough to support the conclusion that is drawn. Remember, an argument from analogy depends on the similarity between two things or situation. Now, the key thing with analogy is similarity, and here's a tip. Hurley, if you're wondering if something is a weak analogy, if you see the word similar, if you see that word similar in the problem you're looking at, then if it looks like it's weak analogy and then you see this word here, Hurley kind of gives things away. You're probably dealing with a weak analogy. Okay, so there's just a little tip I can give you. And here's the thing, if you develop your critical thinking skills, you should discover this little clue all by yourself anyway, okay? I just started noticing, was this weak analogy or was it something else? And then I'd notice all the ones that were weak analogy. sometimes the word similar would be there. So there's a little gift from your teacher, Dave, okay? Here's an example. Harper's new car is bright blue, has leather upholstery, and gets excellent gas mileage. Crowley's new car is also bright blue and has leather upholstery. Therefore, it probably gets excellent gas mileage too. Now, this is a weak analogy, but the reason it is okay, you have, actually, let's see, let me see, I may have to go to the second page here. Here's what you got to do. Okay, you got bright blue color, right? And you got leather upholstery, right? And then it gets good gas mileage. Okay. Now over here, Crowley's new car, it's also bright blue, right? And it has leather upholstery. To find out if this is a good analogy, good analogies will do something like this. Bright blue leather upholstery, and this has bright blue leather upholstery too, Crowley's car, right? And then when you're extrapolating to this X, which is an unknown, you have a chance of this being a strong analogy if whatever X is here is related to what you already know is similar. So we know both have bright blue color leather upholstery, but gas mileage is very irrelevant. Color and upholstery materials has no real similarity or relevance to gas mileage. Okay, so because there's no relevance here, this just happens to be bright blue in color, you know, Harper's car, and the upholstery is leather, and it happens to get good gas mileage. But the reason this is a weak analogy is even though you have similarities here, you first got to know what the similarities are, fair enough. Then you've got to say, what is the relevance of these similarities to X? Okay, and I can go to the last one to pull this out here. Let's go to, okay. Entity A has attributes A, B, C, and Z, and here it'd be bright, bright blue color and upholstery, and here we've got that gas mileage, right? Entity B has bright blue color, leather upholstery, and you're trying to say it has good gas mileage also. You're saying therefore entity B probably has attribute Z, right? Okay? So here's what you've got to keep in mind. So this is just going to summarize what I already said. First, you've got to identify what attributes are similar between A and B, and we've done that. Okay? Color and upholstery materials. Secondly, you need to determine how the attribute Z, which is gas mileage, right? Gas mileage. And you want to determine how does Z relate to color and upholstery. If some causal or systematic relation exists between Z and, in this case, A and B, because we only looked at color and upholstery, then the argument is strong. This one is weak because gas mileage doesn't really relate at all to color and upholstery materials. Okay, everybody, that's a wrap. We are done with fallacies of weak induction, and look for the next lecture capture on the next family resemblance group. That'll be your next videos, but you have what you need here to study up and start doing the START problems and your homework problems under section 3.3.